It's 7:01 p.m. on July 28, 2020, a stormy and rainy evening near the Alabama Gulf Coast. Not far from its departure airport, an F-33 Bonanza spirals toward the ground. At the controls is a VFR-only pilot, desperately trying to command his airplane by feel instead of focusing on what his flight instruments are trying to tell him. Just a few hours earlier, such a dire situation would have been almost unthinkable. In Gulf Shores, Alabama, the Bonanza's pilot and his wife are preparing for the flight home to Muscle Shoals, 270 miles north. As is often the case during summer in the South, weather is a major concern. The pilot has been monitoring the situation online and knows conditions aren't good along his route. Worse, the poor weather is likely to stretch into the following day when he has a business meeting scheduled back home. He's hoping to make it in time, departing either in the evening or the following morning. But he's not instrument rated, and his flight service briefing is not encouraging.
Well, sir, tomorrow doesn't look good. We're expecting thunderstorms, rain showers, low ceilings, and reduced visibility all along your route of flight. VFR is not recommended.
How would things look for departure tonight around 6 o'clock?
Well, that's not looking so good right now either. There are thunderstorms and rain showers over the area, and there's a convective segment for the southern portion of the route, with an area of thunderstorms moving eastward. Northern portion, there's a center weather advisory in effect for developing thunderstorms, and there's weather building along and on both sides of the route and around the destination. Again, VFR flight is not recommended.
The briefer offers a recent weather observation from Mobile, a few miles west of the intended course, showing an indicated visibility of 1.5 miles in heavy rain and mist. He warns the pilot that he may experience rain showers, thunderstorms, and reduced visibility along his route.
Well, I feel confident that if I go during the daylight, unless I got a solid line of thunderstorms, I can go around a lot of precipitation. If I'm going VFR, I'm going this afternoon, unless I got clouds that are getting low enough that I can't fly, and I haven't heard anything to tell me that.
Around 5 p.m., the couple load up their Bonanza during a break in the rain. An FBO employee watches them return to the lobby and continue to monitor the weather reports for the next hour. At 6 p.m., the couple wisely decide to unpack their luggage from the airplane. The pilot calls a family member and tells them that the trip home may be canceled. However, just a short time later, he calls back, saying that they, quote, had a window and were leaving after all. A customer service agent at the FBO hears the pilot say that it looked clear enough to pick his way. As he prepares to launch into marginal weather with rain and thunderstorms, it's worth noting that the pilot does have a few things going for him. The aircraft has an autopilot, data link weather, and an electronic primary flight display with synthetic vision. It's a smaller unit, but it still provides a better reference to the horizon than traditional instrumentation. Around 6:30, an airport employee watches the Bonanza taxi toward the runway. From the FBO, the employee cannot see the trees just across the field. There is no break in the overcast or rain. Takeoff is at 6:45. As expected, radar shows a line of precipitation with embedded thunderstorms stretching southwest to northeast across the route. After departure, the pilot establishes a northerly course at 3,000 feet MSL and requests flight following from Pensacola approach. Trouble starts almost immediately. Flying into clouds and rain, the pilot suddenly descends 700 feet and deviates 90 degrees off course, away from an area of heavy precipitation.
Air 56 Whiskey, did you need help on that cell off your north there? Looks like you took a pretty harsh westbound turn.
The pilot doesn't reply. he's still airborne. But a witness on the ground will later report that she heard what sounded like an airplane in a dive, though she couldn't see anything because of thick cloud cover. The airplane then sounded as though it recovered and flew away. Shortly thereafter, the controller calls again, and this time gets a response.
November 3156 Whiskey approach.
3156 Whiskey, go ahead.
56 Whiskey, you just continue on that westbound heading for about 10 miles. You'll be clear of all that weather north of you.
Once again, there's no response. But when the controller hands the flight off to Mobile approach, the pilot acknowledges the frequency change.
Bonanza 3156 Whiskey, contact Mobile approach on 118.5.
118.5.
In the meantime, though, the Bonanza has begun to turn back to the north, away from the lighter precipitation it had been flying through and directly toward an area of heavy rain. Seeing this, the new controller asks the pilot what his intentions are. The pilot replies, "Right now, I'm trying to get through clouds here." ATC then asks if he intends to continue northbound and advises that a west heading for 5 or 6 miles will take him into an area of lighter precipitation. The pilot acknowledges the transmission, but doesn't answer the question. Around this time, the original controller, who's still watching on radar, is briefing his replacement.
This guy is nuts. I don't know what he's doing. It looked like he was avoiding it, then he went right to it. Just watch him because he's like, he won't respond.
56 Whiskey is still headed north. To clarify the danger, ATC again advises there's an area of heavy to extreme precipitation, 10 miles in diameter, just 5 miles north of the Bonanza's current position, but again gets no response. Radar shows the aircraft continuing north toward the cell, climbing to more than 5,000 feet. As it enters the area of heavy precipitation, it begins a tightening, diving left turn, a classic graveyard spiral. There's one last partial call from the pilot, and then silence. 1 hour later, a Coast Guard helicopter locates the wreckage in a heavily wooded area, not far from the last radar return. Sadly, the pilot and his wife are fatally injured. The NTSB probable cause for this accident is one we have heard many times before. A non-instrument rated pilot, under pressure to get home, departs into deteriorating weather, finds himself in rain and clouds, and loses control of the aircraft due to spatial disorientation. That's a good summary of what happened here. But there's more to be said, starting with some good news. Accidents like this have never been more avoidable because of our improved tools. Pilots have access to enhanced forecasting, flight deck data link weather, and even better ATC radar. What hasn't changed is that pilots still must take that information and use it to make good decisions. Sadly, that doesn't always work out. The question is why? The most obvious answer is a group of factors that usually get lumped together into the term get-home-itis, probably the biggest driver of bad weather decisions. Whether it's a tight schedule, inconvenience, pride, money, pressure, or a combination, the costs of canceling seem immediate and real, while the potential costs of flying seem vague and hypothetical. When tempted to reconsider, it's a shame the pilot was not able to step back and ask, has anything really changed about this situation? Has the weather really improved to an acceptable level? Developing personal minimums well ahead of your flight is a great way to reduce that pressure. It's important to recognize that astute decisions are much easier to make when not preoccupied with flying. That's why writing down personal minimums in advance of a flight is so important. It provides solid guidance during pre-flight decision-making. It also reduces the risk of mentally negotiating yourself into a tight spot in the heat of the moment when influenced by emotion and the hope of a successful outcome. Something that is challenging to appreciate is just how powerful spatial disorientation is. Making yourself do what's necessary to control the aircraft can be a legitimate struggle. Rapid transitions in and out of clouds, heavy rain, lightning, and turbulence just make it easier to get disoriented at precisely the time when it's most difficult to fly the aircraft. An autopilot can be invaluable, but you must be prepared to use it, and this pilot apparently wasn't. We don't know much about the pilot's experience, aside from the fact that he held a private pilot certificate and had around 900 hours. He had never acquired his instrument rating, and according to the NTSB interview with his flight instructor, had no plans to do so, because he goes everywhere VFR. Despite the pilot's feelings on the matter, even strictly fair weather flyers can benefit from earning an instrument rating. An instrument rating, even if seldom used, would potentially have given this pilot the necessary skills to escape the clouds and return to his departure airport. In the end, the pilot and his wife paid the ultimate price, a far higher cost than 2 nights in a hotel and a missed meeting.